I'm absolutely blown away by Frank Sinatra performing live. I have never done an analysis video for it. He's so cool. He's so collected. His voice flows so easily. I enjoyed this analysis 100 times more than I was expecting. So much fun. Guys, please sit back, relax, watch me geek out and fangirl and analyze the great Frank Sinatra. I'll see you after. So cool.
Fly me to the moon.
Oh, forget it.
Let me play up there with those stars. Let me see what life is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me.
Unbelievable. From that first line, like just so casual and comfortable and cool as a performer. And not only that, but his voice is just butter. It's just golden butter. And it's so easy and effortless. And he sings so well in tune, just perfectly in tune. And I love how much he plays around. He has fun with it. He's changing words left and right. He's changing notes left and right. I mean, this is just a masterclass on being a performer and being an artist. Absolutely sensational. I'm blown away. I don't know if I've watched him perform live a couple times. I've never seen him do this one live.
Fly me to the moon.
Fly me to the moon. Instead of fly me to the moon, fly me to the moon, right? Already from the get-go, changing things up. And also I just love how he just releases his voice. It's not calculated. It's all for him at this point, just muscle memory. He's got the technique, right? So it's just fly me to the moon. It's just right in there, right in the pocket. So easy. Just everything about him. He's just so cool. I'm blown away. Look at this guy. Yeah.
Fly me to the moon.
Oh my God.
Let me play up there with those stars. Let me see what life is like on Jupiter and Mars.
He's just playing around on Jupiter and Mars. And I love how Frank pretty much whenever he gets a longer note, he will allow that beautiful Frank Sinatra vibrato to come in, like classical vibrato, just in terms of how consistent it is. I mean, he's got the voice where, like, I don't know how loud he was, but assuming volume would not be an issue for him, like, he could have been a great opera singer. And that would have required him to route his career that way, and I'm so glad he didn't, because now, like, so many more people have now heard his voice. If he had gone into opera, it's such a more niche genre, you know, people would have loved him there, but he's one of the most famous singers of all time because he went with the crooning and the jazz standards, and I'm so glad he did. That's why we're talking about him nowadays, truly, outside of the opera world anyway. But just he allows this beautiful, easy vibrato to come in.
Like
Let's see.
Let me play up there with those stars.
Stars. Gorgeous.
Let me play up there with those stars. Let me see what life is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand.
And just on hand, because he is keeping it straight tone, I think more than the record, like the studio version. Hold my hand. And then he allows that vibrato to come in on hand.
Hold my hand.
It's just shimmering, right? It's a shimmering vibrato.
Darling, kiss me.
Me.
Fill my heart with song. let me swing forevermore.
Like, it's so different. The rhythms are so different from the studio version. Da, 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 da. He like waits a few beats and then comes in with a completely different rhythm.
Fill my heart with song.
Oh my God.
Let me swing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore.
It's got all these nice accents. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. Just like keeping those accents really live and fresh. Not punching them, but just leaning into those offbeats.
Forevermore, you are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words,
words. He really attacks and then pulls off, but does not let that get in the way of that beautiful vibrato. Words. So nice.
And adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you.
I love you. It's down to a G too. I mean, he very much, like, to me, very much just a very rich baritone voice. Not a bass, definitely not a bass, and has so much wonderful flexibility up top. That's kind of another giveaway of a natural baritone voice. Sometimes they can get down to the low stuff, usually, you know, by pushing. His G2 sounds very nice. I imagine not much low. If he started to go lower than that, it would probably start to require a little bit more effort, getting down to the real bass range. But G2 sounds great, and that's really as low as a baritone repertoire gets. And then he has this wonderful flexibility on his upper end, which is really what defines that kind of lyrical baritone voice. It's just wonderful. Truly one of the greatest voices ever. And I know like his singing sounds simple because the song, like the vocal lines are relatively simple and the range is not crazy, but it is like a perfectly produced sound. And it's coming from someone who thinks about how voices are produced all the time on a professional level. There's something so easy about his singing, and that's really what you want. You want it to sound easy and natural, like you're not trying at all. Depending on the genre. For this kind of genre, for sure. You know, the crooning, it's got to sound smooth and relaxed and like I'm just singing, baby, no problem, you know? And there is no one that does it better than Frank Sinatra.
Be true. In other words, I love you.
Like, that's a nice G2. You can tell it's a little thinner down there. Hi, instead of hi. Whereas like a bass voice is going to actually open up a little bit going down to that range. But it's a very lovely G2.
I love you. Jump,
Playing, wiping off the camera. Are you kidding me? I'm in love. I'm in love with this man. This is I can't believe I haven't seen this. I just randomly, I was making analysis videos and I was like, I bet people would enjoy a Frank Sinatra analysis video. And here I am enjoying it as much as I've enjoyed any analysis video before. This is fantastic. And there's so much to talk about with his voice. The shoulder shrug.
Song.
What?
Let me sing forevermore, because you are all I worship, all I long for and adore.
It's so cool to hear him because I'm so familiar with the studio version. It's amazing how many differences he's put in for this live performance. It's the kind of thing, like, I wonder if he just always changed it. If he ever did the studio version, or if he was always just making up new rhythms and mel. Like, he's such a comfortable performer, and he's just so solid. I could see him doing that. Just like, oh, we'll just do it a little differently every night. You know, the band's going to do something similar every night. You know, or maybe I'll give someone an extra solo, give him a little point. Trombone player, you got the extra solo tonight, you know? That happens all the time in jazz. But just, he's so confident. I bet he can just shift it up, no problem, any night. It's so cool to hear. Easy high E's. Why don't you feel my heart? That's high E. High E for baritone or bass voice.
Song, let me sing forevermore.
Sing. Staying on that G, locking into that G instead of sing.
Hard with song, let me sing forevermore. Because you are all I worship, all I long for and adore.
What's that? Those just the chirps coming from the brass section. Just like little staccatos. Just to accent, just keeping that offbeat going.
You fill my heart with song, let me sing forevermore. Because you are all I worship, all I long for and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words,
just a gorgeous high E, sustained, and then continues through the whole phrase. True, in other words. Absolutely glorious. Absolutely glorious. Such good vocal fold closure, such an efficient tone. It's like, yes, you see the people freak out about the neck vein bulging sometimes with singers. This is created from subglottic pressure. And you need subglottic pressure to have really good vocal fold closure. It's a pressure system. And so sometimes you'll see that it doesn't necessarily mean the singer is straining. It can mean that, but you have to go based off more of the sound rather than what it looks like. Like there'll be times at the end of like an operatic phrase when you see my neck vein bulging, but I got it locked in, baby. I mean, it's locked in, it's breath supported, it's fully efficient, it's all that, but the neck is popping because the subglottic pressure has built up under the vocal folds. Subglottic.
in other words, please be true. In other words,
Not a problem for him.
in other words,
It's a high G. In other words.
in other words,
See, does that sound hard? Not the high G, but when he's sustaining that, pitch, his neck is bulging, but he's not straining for that note.
in other words, in other words,
Right.
I.
Maybe running out of air a little bit, but he's not forcing his voice there. It's a very easy production. That's his high G face. In other words.
In other words, I love you.
Oh my God. I'm blown away. It's one of my favorite performances I've ever seen. What the hell? He's so good and confident on stage. Guys, I hope you enjoyed me geeking out over the great Frank Sinatra. I hope you enjoyed my vocal analysis of him, my first one ever. Please leave suggestions for more if you'd like to see me analyze more Frank or other golden age, big band jazz singers. If you found this enlightening and fun, please do consider joining my Patreon family. It's the best way to support me. And I'll see you in the next video. Maybe some more Frank.